this story is When Charlie McButton Lost Power. It's by Susan Collins and Mike Lester. Looks pretty angry, doesn't it? Should we have a look and see what happens? Right. Here's Charlie. Charlie McButton had likes and like-nots. Things that he liked involved handsets and bots, computerised games where he battled bad creatures. The things he liked not didn't have blow-up features. Then one day a thunderstorm blew into town and brought his tech empire tumbling down. A lightning bolt struck an electrical tower, and Charlie McButton, his whole world, lost power. He looked left, he looked right, and his heart filled with dread. The TV, the lights, and his clock were all dead. He jumped to his feet, his lungs gasping for air. The room spun round and he clung to his chair. He tried to cry, "Help!" but he just managed to squeak. The blackout had blacked out his power to speak. Thank goodness his mother had ears like a bat. She came in the room and gave him a pat. "Oh, Charlie," she said, picking up on his fears, "the lights will come back when the bad weather clears. You'll have to find something without plugs to play. Read a book, clean your room, sing a song, model clay. Could anything be duller than clay? Soggy grey clay on a soggy grey day." He hated the way that clay got under his nails and how he could only make snowmen or snails. He dove for a gadget he'd outgrown last spring. It was handheld, outdated, not much of a thing, but he clutched the old toy like a lifeline that day. See, it ran on one battery, the size AAA. He flicked the on-off switch to on double quick, but no humming sound followed the click. He unlatched the hatch and his blood turned to ice. "Oh, the battery is gone from my backup device." World records were set in the 10-metre dash as down the hallway he flew like a flash, seeking one battery, just one AAA, that would rescue one boy from a grey day of clay. Just when his search nearly drove him insane, he ran past the bedroom of Isabel Jane. His 3-year-old sister was happily walking a doll back and forth, and the doll, it was talking. Now, dolls didn't talk on their own as a rule. They needed a power source, some kind of fuel. In less than a second, he'd made his decision. Call it bad judgment, a real lack of vision. Somehow, his head didn't warn of this folly. And Charlie McButton, he pounced on that dolly. He plucked out his prize through the baby doll's dress, and Isabel Jane made a sound of distress. It was a short walk to the foot of the stair, where resided the McButton time-out chair. To add to the fun of the term of his seat, Isabel Jane came to play at his feet, and Isabel Jane, the battery queen, had more AAAs than he'd ever seen. They powered her puppies, they powered her clocks, they powered her talkative alphabet blocks. Assaulted by non-stop mechanical clatter, Charlie McButton got madder and madder. He snapped at his sis from his time-out zone. "How come you can't ever just leave me alone?" Her eyes filled with tears. She gave them a rub. She went to the bathroom and hid in the tub. Then Charlie McButton felt totally rotten. He couldn't help thinking of some things he'd forgotten. Mainly, he thought that for sisters that toddle, Isabel Jane was a pretty good model. She clearly adored him. She didn't have fleas. At dinner, she'd secretly eat up his peas. And sometimes, although he'd hotly deny it, he liked to sit there beside her in quiet, wrapped up in a blanket, watching TV, her head on his shoulder, her foot on his knee. He sat and he thought, and he stared at the rain. When his time out was done, he found Isabel Jane. From the edge of the tub, she gave him a peek. He said, "Hey, are we playing hide and go seek?" She was happy at once and ran into the hall, as she loved playing hide and go seek most of all. They took turns at being it and counted to 10. They hid in the plants in the guinea pig pen. when he found Isabel Jane in her quilt, they decided a big blanket fort should be built. Then the gloom made him think about dragons and spells. So Charlie became the great wizard McSmells, and Isabel Jane, who desired a role, magically changed into his faithful old troll. Between tracking down giants and brewing up lizards and handling the day-to-day business of wizards, like forging his faithful old troll a new sword, Charlie McButton forgot to be bored. At night, they all ate under real candlelight. The daytime had melted right into the night, and after they'd all been asleep for an hour, the world came back alive with a surge of power. Oh, it's finally back, Charlie thought with a grin. Tomorrow I'll wake up and I can plug in. But another thought hit him. He couldn't explain. You might also find dragons with Isabel Jane. So what did you think? What do you think to Charlie losing all the power in his house? Can you find toys that don't have batteries in your house? Or can you find toys that do have batteries in your house? Maybe you could put them in two piles so you could have no batteries and with batteries.